Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Well, it is one of those races where you've got to just shake off the Christmas hangover. The Boxing Day boxes are put away, and it is time to see what you can do after a holiday rest. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeremy Scott. Adam Reed joins me in the booth. We're live for RacingLab action from the Rudskogen Motor Center, and it is Norway's premier racing center. Adam, this is one of those interesting events where it's a one-off, so we're not necessarily worried about points championships.
Hello, Jeremy. Yeah, we're in for a great night of racing, which should be a little bit more relaxed. We're still going to be seeing some really, really good racing action all throughout the 1 hour race that we do have ahead of us. But it's just going to be about having a little bit of fun. Of course, the Toyota A86s are going to be in action. You see there's a flurry of cars exiting the pit lane. I'm kind of proud to announce this, that we've got about 31 cars that have just exited the pit lane. So we're going to be in for an absolute fantastic night of racing. It all kind of depends on how close you want to get with these cars, especially knowing how how iRacing can be in the midst of a hot battle. But I'm sure these drivers are just out there not for points, not for a victory, but just kind of have some really close racing amongst this incredible race circuit.
Of course, Aiden Howard is back in the production booth, making it sound so good here. I see the weather out here. It's 26 degrees Celsius, 45% humidity. Track surface just under 40 degrees Celsius. So we'll get a little bit of stickiness, but it might be bordering on a little bit of slipperiness as we go on to this hour race.
Yeah. Again, it might be able to do so, but we'll have to see, because of course we're in the very, very cold country of Norway. Of course, everyone in this race is Norwegian, and there is William Amundsen, who looks to be, from his profile picture, a rental carter, but he's now going to be hopping into the sim rig for tonight in that beautiful red, white and black Toyota Gazoo racing livery. I do really like to see some really good Toyota livery. Sometimes you can do them really, really well. I haven't really seen them being done badly. So, yeah, that's kind of a plus side to that.
Yeah, the lines on these, you got to get them just right. I see a couple of cars using the stock Toyota Gazoo Racing livery on them. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Tommy Vettel, Anders Mira, they are two fast drivers to watch out for. Just a lot of interesting storylines here as we see Leander Gabrielsen making their way around the circuit. I don't know how much experience you've had around here, but the couple laps that I've had have ended up in me getting frustrated. This, to me, is a difficult circuit to master, but when you get it right, it seems like you can just get anything right across the system.
0 laps for me around here, but I can tell you from watching races around here, it's pretty tight. It's about momentum, especially in these cars. You'll see these a lot. If you are a regular Apex Racing TV viewer, you will have noticed these from what would be the Grand V, the TGR Nation Grand V, which have been posting so many incredible races all throughout there. So Nikolai Mjelde goes to the top in his Toyota 88.6. A lot of sim racing Norway drivers in here, so you'll see the likes of Nikolai Mjelde, Tommy Wiedel in there as well. I believe, have a look further down, we'll find, where is he? Kim-Andre Bjorklund is in here as well. So, of course, a lot of sim racing Norwegian drivers from I believe what was the GT3 series that I covered back in season, I believe it was season 10 or 11, it was one of the two, but yeah, they were very, very competent, very, very quick drivers in their BMWs, but of course they're going to be swapping out. I believe Tommy Wiedel was also in a Ford Mustang at the time, but yeah, now they're switching to a lot less downforce, a lot less power, and it's going to be a bit of a fun night for them. Maybe away from the kind of the tenseness of a GT3 car into something that can be a little bit fun for them.
Asfad with the fastest time of the qualifying session, I should say, so far, 31.647. Mile with a 31.697. Good enough for him. He's going to pull it back. William Arneson sitting back, and Mile getting back out there as well. With a Solsi Arneson out there, Sani Vettel rounding out your top 5 as we watch cars make their way around. That is the 46 that we're watching on course right now. That's Simon Overung and Anders Mira, no surprise here, to the top, 31.597. Get him an AGT car, doesn't matter what brand it is, and he's going to be quick. As Agard gets to the fastest time also, look at that, 31.585. So already we're about 5 minutes into this qualifying session, and we're seeing a lot of your top drivers start to trade barbs with who's going to get the fastest lap.
Yeah, absolutely. That seemed to be Nikolai Agard's, a very quick driver in himself. I haven't had a lot of experience commentating over Nikolai, but you know, when he's up at the top ends, there's a reason why he's up there. A lot of practicing for him on this simulator, but this now kind of becomes very, very touring car-esque. You know, the gaps are looking pretty close. There you go. One of the drivers, Emilio Hersu, had just gone up in there into P10, 8.5 tenths off Agard. But you know, when the tyres are going to be into their kind of working range, a lot of the drivers have got laps and the fuel burns down. You know, I think we're going to be seeing quite a lot of drivers now really finding themselves really close and competitive. Because there will be a competitive nature about this race. Yes, it's going to be, as we're going to be probably outspoken about this, it's a little bit of a Christmas fun, but you know, there is a little bit of competitive edge to some of these drivers. You know, they're not going to be, they're not going to be having walkabouts around this circuit. They're going to be pushing on and see if they can just find and extract any sort of time. Because they want to just, you know, you want to show off your fast. So you don't want to be putting yourself, 30-second every single lap. You want to be kind of, challenging with everyone in the server. So we'll see how this does. There's a massive train happening here. That's going to be really interesting, especially because with the slipstream and the car just pulling off onto the inside of turn number 1. Yeah, I think they're pulling off into the pit lane, it seems.
Well, and that's the weird thing about this circuit is that, you look like you're going to the pit road, but you see the dotted lines, it's just a weird pit entry, pit exit, but the flowing of the circuit actually makes things very interesting. And yeah, you mentioned the touring car-esque Mira off track, so he will lose that time, decides to go right into the pits. Your top two fastest drivers, Agard and Mira. Take a look and see what he does as comes around one of the final corners. Lots of gravel already being thrown down as we see just off and right into the gravel. That looks like a disconnect that happened with the number 20, so he'll go out and fix it and come back into the circuit. And he's on his outlap actually right now. So your top four separated by a 1/10 of a second already. Agard, Mira, Avstad, and Mile, all 1/10 of a second. Still halfway through the session though, so anything could happen, but for the most part, what you see is what you get because these Continental tires, once they get up to working temperature, they stay there for just a long time.
Yeah, indeed. Welcome into the, I will double check the name, and yes, I am right. Welcome Eric Roseth into the session, another one of the GT3 drivers Sim Racing Norway. Just over a 1/10.5 off Nikolai Agard in his Toyota, and of course Eric Roseth, I believe, was in a Ford Mustang when I last saw him. So hopefully he's looking to do pretty well. He's just been kind of followed there by Leander Gabrielsen in number 7, just popping himself up into 6th, just 3/10 shy of Agard's time. But you know, there's not too bad though here. A lot of cars on quite a small track does kind of make you think that you know, there's going to be a couple of interruptions there. Traffic is going to be a little bit of a problem, but yeah, this really does feel like have a really good feel to it. You know, I get a little bit of feel of really good club racing. You know, the at a competitive kind of sim lobby in as well. You know, the gaps are quite tight, but also, you know, there's drivers in here that may not be the fastest. It's kind of a big old mixed bag, I'd say. Trying to complement every single one in the lobby at the moment. I think we're actually, yeah, we're still on 31. Some drivers still haven't gone out just yet.
And Adam, one thing that I'm noticing too during this session, we're seeing a lot of slowdown penalties, and the way that the circuit flows, you see the exits, you really got to set yourself up for the next corner sometimes. I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot of those yellow boxes just pop in and out on the left-hand side of your screen. So I think that's just going to be commonplace today.
Yeah, because with a touring car, it's very similar to this. Was more of a low power. You are just going to be on the edge. I think that you are looking to try and put that car in a zone where you're right on the edge of the limits, right on the edge of danger, but you're not going over it. You're just trying to really find that finite amount of keeping the car on the circuit, but also trying to use as much of the exits and much of the corners. Sometimes you may find as a driver they aim for just right of the curb compared to maybe trying to put their front left on the curb of a right-hander. Oh, sorry. When you're trying to approach some of the corners, you may try and put the front right on a right-hander. Sometimes you may be trying to put the left on there to try and find the rhythm as much as you possibly can, and just straight lining. I think that's something that's going to be trying to do. Also wanted to kind of point out this section here, this is turn 1 and 2, very, very similar to Ottersleben as well, where you kind of had that first corner of a flick to the left, you got to slow it right down for the rotation through the second corner. So some very good similarities in that part.
What I love about this sector here is they use the natural terrain of this area, something you don't normally see in circuits anymore, and use it to its advantage. You're watching your fastest qualifier, Nikolai Agard, 31.585, the best time out of the number 13. As he works his way through sector 2, let's see what he does here. He's got a couple of cars close behind, down the sweeping turns. And what's interesting is there's so many corners with in such a tight area too, because you see some camera shots where you have the cars go by as you works his way through turn number 12, short little straightaway into turn number 13. Now the right-handed sweeper of turn 14. So you got one of two choices around here. You can either dive left into the pits or continue tight right down the front straightaway, and indeed that's what he's going to do. And the pits are going to come into play here during this hour race as well. Let's see what Agard can do across the line. 31.816, the best time for him. Anders Mira also in that train with a 31.618. Still a hundredth of a second separating the two drivers, but Adam, pit stops are going to be huge in this race.
Yeah, they absolutely are, especially if you've got that competitive edge. You're really going to want to try and time it well. I'm sure they'll fill the they'll kind of maybe fill it up to about 60%, drain it all the way down, and then try and refill it to about 50%, and then try and go for the rest of the way. So it will be mighty interesting to see how that part goes. There's got a lot of yellow sectors. I think that's maybe because the tyres are starting to wear out a bit, but they'll do a change for the final 2 minutes. Have a look at the gap between first and fifth, 600ths of a second. That's merely anything, and that is going to be filled by the usual leader of all of this, Nikolai Agard. Then comes Anders Meyer, then Nikolai Mjelder, Eric Roseth, and then Silva Asrestas in all of this. So yeah, pretty close gaps in this one. Yeah, and then you kind of find that little middle pack before you find that back pack. So we're approaching the kind of the critical part of qualifying, but we'll have to see what they do here. Gabrielsen with 131.871 in that one, and we'll see who else is coming over the line. Hersug across the line, no improvement on that part, and then I'm sure we'll just start shuffling them away. Look at Eric Roseth. He's had a green sector, but I don't think he's improved at all on this part. We're kind of looking for two green sectors in all of this. A couple of slowdowns as well popping up here, but yeah, unless anything has anything to pull out the back pocket, I don't think we're going to be seeing any more big improvements coming our way.
Went to check the YouTube page, and Seaman Andre Livingston said, "Hope I win." If that's not quite confidence, I don't know what is. Right now, Livingston sitting in 8th place with a 31.981. And yeah, we're getting to that point where drivers are just settling in and just seeing what their car can do here in the later stages of the stint, as Vettel sets one green sector time, but comes across the line and does not improve upon his 32.089. That's just going to be the nature. I think, these drivers are going to get their fastest laps in the first couple of laps, and then things are going to level off just a little bit. Roseth with a fast sector here as well. Same with Oliver Strandham in sector 2. But look at Braxton. He has two fast sectors in the number 75. You see him on the screen right there. Let's see what he can do down the straightaway. If the drafting help's going to help out at all. 25th fastest, 31.584, his best time. And he's definitely going to improve to 20th fastest with a 32.868. So some fast times being set, but then again, you take a look at the bottom part of your timing screen, and there's only two drivers who have not logged times yet.
Yeah, that's almost 1.3 seconds off the quickest time, but that's still not too bad there from Brandstad. Really good stuff from them. We'll have to see. Tobias Instad then goes and steals that 20th place, 132.775. That looks to be up into P11. Goes Hendrik Strand, 132.206. He again gets topped there by what seems to be Steiner Sani for RacingLab Esports. Goes to P10, half a second off the top time. Nothing has really changed amongst that top 5 as well. Czechoslovakia has been out for a while now, so they're just trying to find some more laps. Look at that, Samuel Braxstad, who is now in 21st place, has managed to get another lap time in, and I think he's that time is not really doing too well at the minute. I think there's a couple of problems with that one, but yeah, we'll have to see if that gets fixed or if that's kind of him over. He's still there actually, in fact, coming into this final section.
And of course, Bronseg, no harm, no foul, but a mechanical blackout of the 23rd place driver. Let's see what Brockstad can do coming across the line for his final time. Brockstad was 21st across the line. Does he improve? He does not improve, so he will stay 21st. But with an hour race, pit strategy is going to come into play here as everybody has logged their fastest time. Let's take a look at that grid real quick as we get set for this race. And as we take a look at the circuit. Adam, anything peek out to you in this qualifying session? I know it's not very indicative because you take a look at how close everybody is, and it's going to make things interesting for at least the opening stanza of the race.
Yeah, it will be definitely quite intriguing to see how they all kind of work out everything there. Yeah, there is the track map. You can just kind of see how, as I was describing, the first part very much looking like Oschersleben. Then you head down a massive hill into some very tight, twisty sections of the circuit. Then you head back up the hill, and then we'll head into that last section that you're seeing now. But here is the grid. Nikolai Agard will be on pole position ahead of Anders Meyer, and Nikolai Mielder will start in P3 with Eric Roseth and Silver Asbestad with William Arston starting on the third row of the grid. Then we find Leander Gabrielsen with Seamen, Andre Livingston with Tommy Wiedel in P9 and Styler Sani in P10. Hendrik Strand and Alexander Toftum Skaret will round out the sixth row of the grid. Then we go on to the seventh row of the grid where we find Kim Andre Bjorklund alongside Emiliano Herzog with Oliver Strandem and Vegard Olsen Lia with Tim Daniels Osbus and Stian Sallingstad in P18, Joachim Rovede and Tobias Ninstad on the 10th row of the grid. Samuel Brackstad alongside Oyvind Haugland, Rainer Brandstad and Sigmund Oversring. And we move further down where we find Torbjörn Mahler and Sander Danielsen, Oyvind Andersen, Jan Eagle Jansberg, and Kenneth Palstrud, Liam Storkesten, and Stian Loksten rounds off the 31 cars. That was very difficult for me, being nowhere near Norway. I'm probably a couple about 1,000 miles away from Norway. Maybe these guys will have to kind of give me a lesson on Norwegian names. Maybe the both of us will have to. We look to go for a rolling start as well.
I should have printed off the list of names and sent them to Anders Krohn, a good friend of mine who used to run in Indy Next, and be like, hey, give me the pronunciation so I don't sound like an idiot. So apologies if we butcher names left and right as we get set for the formation lap. It'll be a rolling start. A couple of fast drivers up at the front. See what happens as the Porsche pace car, at least we can say Porsche, right? That gets underway. Will become the safety car once the lights go out, and the field is starting to work their way around the circuit.
Yep, they are indeed, and so it's going to be about getting that. I believe these are going to be front-wheel drive cars as well. That will be something different. Because we usually see a lot of rear-wheel drive cars amongst the sim racing community. Your Formula cars, they're all rear-wheel drive. You see a lot of GT3s, they're rear-wheel drive, but kind of get that power to the front because of the front-mounted engines. And then you also have kind of what else? What else do we find in sim racing? Because there's quite a lot of Formula cars, GT cars. Are there any I'm missing? NASCAR, I'm pretty sure they're all rear-wheel drive as well. So to have something that's front-wheel is something massively different. And it's really, really nice to kind of have that different variety. Not a lot of people run touring cars, I feel like, these days, but as someone who regularly watches the British Touring Car Championship, I can tell you that there is some very, very entertaining racing amongst that championship. But it just seems like, I think in terms of like iRacing and sim racing, it's just not possible to go door to door because of the netcode. But we'll kind of pass over that and just watch how these guys go race, because you see that top five and how close they were in qualifying. Well, that's 600ths of a second. That's merely anything. So expect some of the sim racing Norway drivers to have an absolute blast together and have a very close 5-pack. I expect them to at some point during this race go 3 wide. But you know, they're heading into this final section. They've got to make sure their car is completely up to optimal temperature, and the last thing they want to be doing is just locking up straight towards turn number 1 and causing a massive pile up, because I don't think that's going to go well down in an entire country.
Yeah, no, it won't, especially a country as small as Norway. Here comes a pace car into the pits, and the field working their way. 19 here will be on the track. It's Nikolai Agard and Anders Mira, your front row. They make their way down the straightaway. As we watch and wait, they start to string out 3 wide already. No sign of the green, and indeed we get it. Green flag is out, and Agard gets an early jump. Mira falling back to third as Millet going to the inside. The tight left-hander will spook somebody out, but we're already single file for the top 3. Mira all over the back of Millet as we work our way through turn number 2. Livingston up 1 as well, but further back they are side by side, 2 by 2, some even 3 wide there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be pretty tight on the first lap. You know, they're not quite they're not quite that confident, but we'll have to see how they all approach this one. I think they just wanted to get stuck in and get involved. Yeah, we've had a couple of cars either a massive accident that we haven't seen behind, or they've just kind of logged off for the night and want to kind of spectate on this one, because you know there's going to be some pretty entertaining stuff from the offboard, and they might be sitting there thinking, glad I'm not invited, glad I'm not part of this one, otherwise I'd have been absolutely smoked. Maybe best to sit this one out. But yeah, through the hairpin they go, and up the hill they're trying to push here. Agard might be trying to get away here, but Nikolai Mielder, and it looks like Anders Meyer are going to be working as a duo to try and push on through. We're just tracking here Gabrielsen, who's going to be right on the back here. I think he's going to try and just follow everyone here to head their way down the main straight, and we see slipstream galore.
Strandham was one of the cars who did not Strandham was one of those cars who did not able to complete a lap. We took 19 on the grid. Looks like at least one competitor, also Roved, was started from pit road, but the rest of the field not out there so far. So we're actually Anderson showing out, but also showing lap time. So we'll see what happens. Strange things do sometimes happen, especially during the holiday season. But this is what I love about touring car racing. Yeah, there's a lot of side-by-side action, but there's a lot of thinking man's racing as well, as you see drivers trying to do their best to get around. They've got to really plan their move. They really can't do a slingshot too much, especially like you see in the higher GT formulas. This is a lower one. Power to weight ratio really makes things just a little bit more difficult. Through the S's, the field works their way single file once again, and we see Gabrielsen trying to do what he can to get around Roseth for that 4th spot all over the back bumper right now, as we see Oliver Charlie Strandham sitting back there in 20th place, and the rest of the field still looking pretty good. Battle for position as well back there. I believe that's going to be for the 13th in Hallenstad and Toftum Scaret as well. So lots of battling near the middle of the pack. But now, Adam, what's interesting is we're starting to see 2 distinct fields, as there is a split. I'm going to call that all the way back in the 11th spot with Kim Andre Bjorklund.
Yeah, indeed. You know, you will find that kind of split as well. And I think the back kind of guys will start batting away. They're not going to be too bothered about trying to work as a team and try and catch the front. They would just want to be batting away. And you're right there, Kim Andre Bjorklund just kind of sitting in the back there with his little legs trying to catch onto the back of the rest of this pack. We'll have to see how this kind of works out. I do wonder if we'll have a little bit of fuel saving all throughout, because remember, we've got a limited amount of fuel in the car, so they're just going to have to maybe just manage. When you get into a bit of slipstream, you're just going to have to do a little bit of lifting and coasting to just try and save a little bit of fuel, maybe go a little bit longer. It will be interesting to see if someone maybe goes a bit early. It will be interesting to see how if they go in the middle stage around about the 30-minute mark, or if they just try and stay out there as long as they possibly can and try and go for a full push with 15 minutes remaining or 20 minutes remaining. We'll have to really see how these strategies all pan out here. They head their way in towards the next sequence of corners. Bjorklund doing whatever he can, but look at the battle there in the background. They are really going at it. There's Hallingstad and Sani with Tofton Scarrett right in the back of that one. Herzog as well, not quite having the start that they wanted. And this is going to be superb spectating.
Well, and you got to stop and figure, too. One wrong move, and you'll lose 2, 3, maybe even 4 spots as we have a blanker behind Hallingstad right now, holding off Sani and Toftum as well. Toftum Scarrett, and not too far away as we mentioned, Herzog and Junstad all involved in this single file battle. Of course, everybody trying to work their way around. There's your leader, Nikolai Agard, with Mile and Mira not too far away, but still, Agard trying to do all that he can to keep the advantage. 31.630, the fastest lap for him thus far in this race. Of course, we're only working lap number 4 of just a lot of laps. Again, this is an hour race, so it's going to be, we mentioned the pit strategy is one thing, but also trying to get things all together for making something happen through the S's. And yeah, I have a feeling you're right, Adam. A lot of these drivers probably has some sort of, has some sort of issue.
Yeah, I'm kind of just putting it in our little chat, but that we have here in Discord. But yeah, I think it's just a simple disconnection. Maybe some people in the same place maybe had a bit of a power cut, unfortunately. But yeah, I think we're still seeing some really good racing. It's just kind of just shame that not a lot of people have not been able to get involved because of an issue like this. iRacing does a little bit of a it's a difficult thing to try and handle this many cars, but it's done well on some parts, not well on some other parts. But I think that it's going to be a little bit of a shame for the competitors, but I think for the others, I think that's what they're going to hopefully try and push on here. I think they're just going to have to now go and watch the stream, and hopefully we can bring them a good race. And something that's for sure interesting is Sina Sani. And you can see there he went for the inside line, but now he's going to put himself on the outside for turn number 2. And Tofton Scarrett is now going to try and accelerate his way past if he can get the exit off the second corner, but onto the slipstream there of Hallingstad. Hallingstad. Sani just managed to get himself ahead here. So it looks like that's the battle for what should be 12th down to 15th, and now Sani is going to be put under a bit of pressure here from Tofton Scarrett.
And this seems to be the battle of the race right here, as you see a little bit of side-by-side action. Tofton Scarrett gets up one for now. Gonna lose that spot, though, is not in the right position. Ooh, a little bit of a bump there between the two drivers as we're watching these two just go neck and neck. Tofton Scarrett gonna get ahead just a little bit. Sani gonna fall back as well, with Herzog not too far away. That has given Hallingstad a chance to open up that gap just a little bit. So you see Sani right there, the meat in that sandwich, with Tofton Scarrett and Herzog on either side of them. Sani trying to hold off and maybe hook up and catch up to Hallingstad, who's in that 12th place, starting to walk away just a little bit. Jinstad with a mechanical black flag. He is into the pits. Let's see what kind of times these guys are doing. 32.6, 32.7, 33.0. Yeah, so Tofton Scarrett with that little slide there lost a little bit of time. 9 seconds on the nose. We take a look at a replay, see what happened to Jinstad, and I have a feeling that this is going to end up with the driver just ending up in the wall. Yikes, a little bit of a tap there, and that'll do it each and every time. And yep, just a little bit of net code, a little bit of wall contact mixed together, and you get a trip to the pits.
Yeah, that's going to be unfortunate there. Really not ideal play for them, but we'll kind of push on forward, especially we're now seeing this kind of really competitive middle pack. Stalingrad, Hallingstad now look to be that's close to maybe 3 seconds behind Kimonto Bjorklund. Meanwhile, there seems to be a little bit of heating up in that top pack. It's still staying pretty close, and I thought it would be a pack of 5. It's seemingly, I'm going to put this out there, I think that's going to be a pack of 8 there, it seems. Maybe or maybe 7, maybe 7, 8, around about there. So definitely, it's going to be pretty close. think it's now going to show the small margins are going to be making the difference here. You see a lot of the default Toyota Gazoo racing liveries out there, but we'll see what happens. They head over the line. We've got almost 10 minutes on the clock here, so almost in the first quarter of this race. So not too bad. I think in fact we've gone over that.
We're in the gap of 6, 7 cars. Huh? All right, never mind. I don't want to, sorry, parents, about that. But yeah, this gap of 7 is starting to string out to a gap of 4 and a gap of 3 as well. But we're going to see that throughout this race. And we like to call it the accordion effect. There's Tommy Vettel sitting in 9th place ahead of Livingston. That's not a place we do normally see Tommy Vettel, usually racing there in the bottom half of the top 10, so not too much of a surprise there. See if he can get up to the front. Good to see that he is out here racing. But Livingston, as we mentioned earlier on, said, hey, I think I'm going to win here, but here's the thing. Pit strategy will have to come into play. It's still too early to kind of say who's going to be in the lead. By the way, Midley, speaking of, has jumped his way over Anders Mira and has gotten into the lead as Nikolai Agard sitting there in 3rd spot. Not sure what happened there, but still lots to happen as we see Sani once again all over the back of Herzog, trying to go every which way around. Not going to work on the outside. It seems like that this track of many on the service, it's a one groove racetrack, and if you put even 2 wheels off, it's going to really slow you down off the groove.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, we've had a bit of that's a bit of a disconnection issue. So I think there's a bit of a blinking going on there. But yeah, let's just kind of kick with it. Looks like the fastest lap is still with Agard, 1:31.630. Everyone was doing a very low 32 last time around, but this time around it seems like a couple of drivers dipping into the high 31s. Rosa, Gabrielson and Arneson down in 4th, 5th, 6th there. So it seems like it's really picking up in terms of the pace in the middle here, because they really want to be latching with these guys. They don't want to be hanging around too much. They want to just be casting their fishing rod onto the back of these guys, because if they start losing a little bit of time here and there, that's of course going to be adding up to a mass amount, and we're going to be finding ourselves with maybe a 5-car battle rather than what we were hoping of maybe 7 or maybe 8, maybe even 9 if possible. But I think Tommy Vidal is just a little bit maybe too far back. It looks like Strand and Kim-Andre Bjorklund have lost a little bit of touch there. They're going to be in their own little tussle, but if they can continue to work together and shut that 5-second gap down, yeah, that's going to be really helpful on their side, because a lot of competitiveness around this event. I do believe that we're going to be seeing a couple of top level battling, but I think let's have a look and see what's maybe happening around Livingston Vidal, because they're looking pretty close at the moment as well. It's again, they pick back up into the low 32, but yeah, a high 31 31s for Gabrielson and Arneson. So really trying to shut that gap down.
Well, if I'm Vettel and Livingston, I'm really hoping that the top 7 ahead of them also to get into a tighter battle than they already are. We see Mira closing. That's going to be good for Vettel. So that's what we're going to see. That's the only way we can see that gap close in, because it's all about momentum. So you get the gloves out, and they're going to be sparring left and right. But as we mentioned, the pit stops are going to be key here to see what happens. Will these two undercut the rest of the field? Time is yet to find out. But yeah, now we've got a 3rd driver who's coming into the play. It's Henrik Strand, who is now he's in the top 10, just looking there, and Kim-Andre Bjorklund also not too far away. So this 2-car battle for 8th could turn into a 4-car battle for 8th, and they may be able to catch up to this pack, which gets tighter and tighter every time we look at it. There's Arneson Avestad sitting there in 6th and 7th. See if Arneson can maybe coax Avestad into getting something happening, as Overing makes his way into the top 20, sits there in 19th. Tim Daniel Opus in the 16th spot, trying to catch up to Sani. We've seen Sani fall back just a little bit, so Steiner Sani was in that battle early on, as did we just have a problem with our leaders? No, it's a connection issue. As Anna's Midley is still your leader. I thought we might have had some contact there. That would have made the race just a little bit spicier, but lots of connection issues. This is going to make things just a little bit difficult for some of these drivers. Either way, back to the point I was going to make. Sani has fallen off from that battle he had with Toftum, Scarrett, and Herzog.
Indeed, top 5 still looking pretty close in proximity, 0.85 of a gap there. So, you know, there's still some opportunity there since the start. I think the biggest gainer there has been, it looks like it's been, well, there's one very obvious one, but he's out in a minute. So, just having a look here, it's Stian Hallingstad, who's gone up 6 places since the start of this race. The biggest loser is Stina Sani down there in P16. So, show off there a little bit of Hallingstad. He's in a decent little place at the moment, just kind of a little bit of no man's land, well, in terms of being in front, but you know, right now he's kind of leading a bit of a pack there of Toftum, Scarrett and Herzog. Let's have a look at Sani, because he's been the biggest loser so far. 6 places he has gone down, and he doesn't want to be really going down any further than that. We'll have to look at a replay. This might be what happened to Sani as he heads his way through some of the corners into the downhill sections. He maybe lost the rear a little bit, maybe had a bit of a lock-up, big wide moment there. Is he going to allow the 14 to head on through side by side? And I think that he will do indeed in that part. No, he still defends.
Yeah, I mean, these are momentum cars, so no surprise that he lost a little bit of momentum, and but still to lose 6 spots off the start where he was in such a good battle, something else had to have happened. But either way, we work our way through the second quarter of this race with Nikolai Midley back into the lead. Nikolai Agard now works his way into second place. Anders Mira has fallen down into third place. That battle for the lead really heating up right there. You see how close it is, and now they're starting to work their way. I think I saw some lap traffic, and that's going to help out Mira get back into second place. So that's your leader, Midley, apologize. But Mira has Roseth and Gabrielson close in tow, so if he wants to go, he might be able to make something happen on some of these long straightaways.
Yeah, it does seem like that Nikolai Mjelde has maybe broken that kind of slipstream barrier, so they're not going to be. It's not going to be as effective as it usually is. And meanwhile, Anders Meyer is now going to try and slip on back through here, unless he thinks the best thing to do here is just work with the guys around me. That's kind of what maybe the best thing to do is here in that position. They head their way through turns 1 and 2, looking pretty fast. Again, Agard now trying to pick up the pace here. 131.630 is his best time so far. Nikolai Mjelde has only just put in a personal best last time around of a 32.0. So it looks like the leading Norwegian of Mjelde is the fastest so far on track, but now that has really closed up to 0.3 of a second here. Some really good stuff now. We're seeing Mjelde under a bit of pressure, and could Nikolai Agard try and find a way through next time around, but that 20 of Anders Meyer really applying the pressure here. But if you look behind there, you got Eric Roseth in the number 12. How would that maybe turn out if Eric Roseth, who started in 4th place, still 4th, started 4th, still 4th, could maybe put something in and maybe throw his name into the gauntlet for the win.
Well, and of course, also look at how much time we have on, how much time we've run, I should say. This is about the point where we saw the Continental tires hit their peak. Now are they starting to slowly fall off, and that's why we're seeing the drop-off in some of these times. But then again, it could also be the fact that these guys are just running in such a tight pack. It is a pack of 7. As you see Vettel, Livingston, and Strand sitting back there a little further away than they were, but still close enough to make something happen should something go wrong with that lead pack. As Vettel now is leading that. He's in 8th place. We saw him try and get around Livingston earlier on, but either way. Brockstad trying to hold off Olsen Leah for that 17th spot. Now we're starting to see what are these cars going to do if they want to make their way into the pits. Now it's still too early. I have a feeling we're probably not going to see some of the front runners get into the pits until about, I would say, 40 minutes into this race. So still plenty of time for these drivers to save fuel and really make something of this.
Yeah, indeed. You know, there's some opportunities here to save fuel as well. Nick and Miata might want to do that at some point as well. So, you know, if there is an opportunity for him to maybe just duck in behind that guard and do a bit of fuel saving, I think that might be something to try and do. Because the last thing he wants to be doing is maybe pitting a little bit too early compared to the cars around him. And then find himself in a little bit of traffic when he comes out from his stop, and then maybe just, you know, after that everyone's made their mandatory stop, not being able to find his best position, maybe not being able to work with the room that he is offered. In this case, it looks like Hallingstad has now got a slowdown penalty. The yellow just being popped out there from the timing screen, but there you can go. It's now starting to quicken up the pace of this one. Everyone now in the very high 31s. So that's Mjelda Agard, who's put in, and then Anders Meyer, who's put in a personal best from his side. Eric Rosef as well, Gabrielson as well. So they're really now starting to just pick up the pace ever so slightly in this part. This is where Agard is a little bit weak. Mjelda, I should say, is a little bit weak in that part. I think maybe a little bit too late in the braking. A bit early, and not entirely sure. I'd love to maybe go on board with him through that section, maybe just something to really keep an eye out for if he's taking it maybe really safe, and maybe just trying to maintain that car through that section, or if he's maybe he's trying to back the pack up, or I really don't know. But yeah, it seems like a section that is just taking a little bit of caution on. Look at that, right up at the rear end is Agard on this part as well.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. You saw a couple corners ago how Meadley